Welcome back. Today's video is going to be about inappropriate texts, more commonly known as sexting. This may be a little bit longer of a video just because we want to make sure that we are highlighting all the different aspects that go along with this topic. First and foremost, we kind of want to give a definition about sexting that you can not only remember easy, but also is easy to understand at all different levels of a kid's age. So essentially it's sending or receiving photos or videos that show someone's body where it would normally be covered by a bathing suit. And if you've taken the darkness to light training that we offer at Kid Center, you'll remember the former lieutenant saying that it doesn't even have to be unclothed. It can be a graphic representation, like having something that's see-through or having something that is wet. Another thing that we need to make sure that our kids understand and that we understand is that if the person in the video or the photo is under the age of 18, that is considered child pornography, and it can be self-made. So when you think about it, those sexting videos or photos, that's considered child pornography if they're under the age of 18, but it can also be taken by someone else. So we need to help youth understand the risks in sending and sharing intimate images. So one of the things that we talk about is that you lose control of that image as soon as you hit send. Once it's shared, it is fair game. And regardless of how much you trust that person, that trust may not be there for the entirety of your relationship. You don't know if they have shared it on a social media or a website. And unfortunately, images and videos like this are very difficult to remove. And the consequences of that is that these images and videos can follow someone well into adulthood. The next thing that kind of connects with losing control of the image is that things can go wrong even in a trusted relationship. So if a significant other is requesting these videos or these photos, you may on impulse and without thinking share it because you may be in that relationship. It may be a well-established relationship, but none of us can predict the future. And sometimes when a relationship breaks down, there may be some ill intent involved, and they may use those videos or those photos to humiliate or to get back at. And unfortunately, this is a form of violation against a person, and it's something that definitely needs to be reported to the local law enforcement and the authorities. It's essentially image-based abuse. So even if you are sending it to someone that you believe you have a trusting relationship with, you really need to take a step back and consider all the different consequences that could come from that. Some of the consequences that can come up when we realize that maybe the images have been shared: humiliation, guilt, shame, anger, self-blame. All of these can lead to a type of emotional distress, withdrawal from school or from family, and in some cases, some severe cases, it can even lead to self-harm and even suicidal thoughts. Doing this can lead to maybe bullying, teasing, harassment. Photos can be shared within a community, within a friendship group. There are so many stories out there about sexting rings happening, even at middle schools where upwards of 50 kids are involved and they're sharing these photos. It can cause damage to a reputation, and criminal charges can be charged against them. We need them to understand that there is a legal repercussion that can come from doing these types of videos and photos. Within the state of Oregon, the law of consent is that anyone under the age of 18 cannot consent to any sexual activity at all. And so that includes non-contact forms of sexual activity like sexting. Often an example that I give is that two 17-year-olds could be sexting each other, and one decides that there's maybe some force or manipulation going on, and so they decide to report it. And if that goes to court, if it's founded, and the other person could actually be ended up listed as a sex offender for the rest of their life. If we were looking at a case in Louisiana, they'd be facing life in prison. It's nothing, there's no set standard across the nation. Every state is different. And so one, it's really important to know the laws of where you live, but it's also important to know that there can be dire legal consequences from creating and sharing these types of photos. So you really want to talk often about these types of posts and requests that they may get. And they have to feel like they don't have to send it just because others are. There's been a lot of research done that less than half of a student population participates in these types of videos and photos. It's somewhere around 56 to 58% have never taken or received any type of photos or videos of this nature. And so the whole, well, everyone's doing it doesn't necessarily match what is actually happening. One consequence that they might experience is called sextortion. It's a form of blackmail with a sexual component. So it may be that they request a video or request a photo, and then they hold on to that as kind of collateral. And then they say, if you don't send me more, or if you don't pay me, this is going to go to everyone that you know. And so it was done in confidence, but now they're using it against the person that sent it. Let them know it's okay to have the self-confidence to say no. And let them know that if they don't feel comfortable going to maybe local police or anything like that, and they're online when they get these requests or when they see photos or videos of this nature, that they can call the cyber tip line at 1-800-THE-LOST or do a report at cybertipline.com. Both of these are anonymous, and it might be a little bit easier for them to do it to kind of a third party, and they'll be able to report photos and videos that they see online or that was sent to them. So the questions that you have up on your screen, we wanted to make sure that these questions weren't accusatory, because we don't want anyone to feel shame or guilt, because they may, if they've already done something like this, those emotions may already be there. So you want to make sure that you are asking it in a way that is non-threatening. But if you kind of look down the line, you're asking if anyone has asked them to send a nude picture of themselves, how did that make them feel? You're trying to connect a situation with an emotion so that it's not something that is kind of abstract in their thought process. You want to ask if anyone has sent them a nude picture or video, and then ask what they did with it. Ask them to think of some responses that they can say if someone does request a video or photo of this nature. That way they're not stuck in the moment. It can be anywhere from using humor to just a simple and basic no. And then what can they do if they keep getting pressured to send something? Who can they go to? Who can they report to? Those are kind of the follow-up questions to that. Asking them what their friends think about the sharing of these kinds of videos and photos is a really important question. We want to make sure that they are thinking about who they're having friendships with and who they're interacting with, and maybe making sure that their values line up and that they're in a healthy friendship and a healthy relationship. Asking them if they know the laws about sexting wherever they live, whether it's in the state of Oregon or elsewhere. And then the last question is If you are in a relationship and your significant other asks or pressures you for a nude, do you think that is an example of a healthy relationship? And then what does a healthy relationship look like? These questions aren't necessarily talked about or taught in a traditional school setting, but they're so important to talk about with your kid. It's something that they need to know about, something that they need to think about and have discussions about, because that can play into so many of these different issues, specifically with this topic about inappropriate texts, about what's healthy. And if it's just based on physical appearance and these photos and videos, that's not necessarily the best type of a relationship to be in. So all of these questions are really, really good to have. We understand that they can be a little bit difficult, maybe a little bit awkward, but it's really something that can have a positive impact on your kid, especially if they are not quite that teenager yet and they're getting ready to go into middle school, getting ready to go into high school, because they're going to start facing, unfortunately, these types of questions and situations. Or their friends are going to go through it and they're going to be able to have answers for them when they maybe have questions that they come to them with. So inappropriate text, while it can be a difficult or uncomfortable conversation, is probably the one that is going to provide the most support to your kids during their transition from being a kid, being a young preteen, through being a teenager and even a young adult.